KNAC.com. Thanks for joining us again. Please help me in welcoming multi-instrumentalist, the multi-talented Steve Zing. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, my friend.
It's very cool to talk to you. We were just chatting a little bit about the crazy weather here between LA and Jersey. You're from Jersey, correct?
Yes, born and bred.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Before we jump into BLAK29, your project, let's give me a little bit of a history on Jersey and the whole scene as you were growing up in the metal scene.
Well, Jersey's been an incredible state, we're so close to Manhattan, right? So I live like 30 minutes from Manhattan. So I think getting a crossover of musicians between Manhattan and Jersey had always given us a wide variety of music styles that obviously, it runs the gamut from whether it's Bon Jovi or Whitney Houston and this, but even, from the 50s on, I mean, we've had a big vast of musical talent, right? And it just keeps going and going. I think we're actually pretty lucky that we have what we have, and obviously, Glenn Danzig and the Misfits and stuff like that, and of course, we formed into Samhain, and just so many bands,
Yeah, did all the scenes that were coming up and like you were involved in, do you think that they helped you influence who you are as a musician, and I mean, of course, possibly as a person?
Absolutely. I grew up a lot on punk, and I think it was because of our proximity to Manhattan, you got to, get all these different scenes. And I think bands like the Cro-Mags, very early on, punk was here and metal was here, right?
Yeah.
But bands like the Cro-Mags kind of brought that all together.
That crossover,
and Motorhead and stuff like that. They really combined both genres, which was great, right?
Yeah.
And I think the musical style kind of integrated as well, with some of the harder stuff, and obviously going from the late 80s into the 90s, you had all these clubs like L'Amour's and things like that were willing to give so many bands that were at this crossover stage a shot. So that was it was very meaningful and very impactful.
Right on. And you mentioned Cro-Mags. Weren't you involved with them briefly for a second, or work with them on something?
Yeah, so I worked on their EP that came out a few years ago, and hopefully where we should be getting back soon to recording more stuff, full-length album with Harley and the gang. So yeah, great.
Oh, awesome. Looking forward to hearing that. Today we're talking about BLAK29. You just released an album. You also released a music video, I believe it's called Blackout.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a little homage to Goth Girls, is that correct?
Yeah, so the song is about these goth girls that you see them all dressed up, and all these little hot goth girls running around and stuff. You would see them in the clubs. You still see them, they come to our shows, and who doesn't love a goth chick?
I know I do. Shout out to my girl Ivy out there. Deadly, and yes, but love them all the same. And so tell us about this BLAK29, and how did this all come about?
Myself and my writing partner in BLAK29, Dan Tracey, we were in some previous bands together, and it's always been where it's been a hassle to keep a band together, because writing songs is one thing, having a band is another. Keeping a band together is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like being in a family. Everybody's got to be on the same page, and sometimes people are expecting things that don't happen so fast, and they don't want to put the time. They don't have the patience for it. They don't want to put the time into it. So myself and Dan found ourselves without a drummer and without a guitar player. So we were just sitting there contemplating our next move, and I'm like, well, I could, obviously I'm a drummer.
Right.
I was singing in the previous bands, and he's like, well, I play guitar, and he was a bass player. So I said, well, let's try writing a song and record it. So fortunately, we have our own, my own studio here.
Oh, great.
And Dan and I have invested quite a bit of money in all different things. And we started with one song. We looked at each other and like, this is pretty good. So let's continue. And that's how the journey started. And we don't have to wait for anyone.
Right.
There's no ego crap about whose part is heard, whose isn't. We write and mix for the song itself rather than a lot of times when you're in a band. A lot of the musicians will listen for their part, but not for the song. Yeah. Right? They just want to make sure they hear their part. So there's no musical masturbation here. So it's just we really try to focus on the song and capture a feeling rather than just listen for parts.
And that's a really, really good explanation. I think it really takes an attention to detail, not just of yours, but like it's like you explained, it's a band effort. You got to make sure like everything as a whole sounds. It's like the saying, "You're only as strong as a chain is only as strong as its weakest link," right? So I think a record is kind of a record and a band is kind of the same aspect. It's like everything should be, top notch, top shelf.
Yeah, it really is, and it's with myself and Dan when the way we do it. If I don't like something he's playing, I tell him. If he thinks I could do something better, he tells me.
Yeah.
And we're not married to anything as far as the parts itself. It's like whatever makes the song better is what we're going for.
Right. Y'all both have the same goal in mind, so that definitely helps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And as a young project with BLAK29, you still have that hunger. This is like your outlet. Like you said, you weren't getting your fulfillment on this end or that end with these people. Like it's your own channel to fulfill, this itch itch that you need to scratch.
Well, it's kind of how I started singing, right? Because I was writing songs and I was auditioning singers and I couldn't find anyone to sing them the way that I wanted it to be sung. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? The hell with it. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. I kind of feel that, man. I'm a musician out here and I'm a drummer. So as a drummer, it's kind of hard. You understand it's hard to write your own songs. You have ideas, but especially when if you don't know how to play, maybe that's my thing too. I should learn how to play bass or guitar or something like that. But I've always thought about like I'm jumping on mics. I do at karaoke nights. Don't get me wrong.
There you go. That's a start.
It's a start, yeah. Singing some Judas Priest or hell, some Al Green. What's up?
Oh, all right. Now you're talking.
Yeah. You got to spread it out, man. Yeah. And you have a nice arsenal of musicians working with you on The Waiting.
Myself and Dan did all the writing, and for the most part, except for 2 songs that we had, Johnny Kelly from Typo Negative.
Typo Negative.
Quite right. We also had Tommy Victor from Prong and Danzig. Nice. And Jyrki from the 69 Eyes on 2 songs as well. We're doing a vocal trade-off. And it worked really well. It was during the point of COVID and kind of everybody was home. And fortunately, everyone was able to send me their tracks. So it worked out really good. A lot of fun.
Okay, so during the whole lockdown and COVID bullshit, like you were in writing mode.
Absolutely.
Cool. So this album was kind of like almost like 2 years in the making or something.
A little more than that. We had signed the Cleopatra deal quite a while ago, and of course, COVID hit. Then there is that whole thing of producing vinyl, right?
Mm.
The amount of time it takes to produce vinyl is crazy. It's like something like 14 months. So in addition to that, we had to wait
Oof.
until we were actually able to get physical product.
Yeah.
So it just made things so much farther out. But
There was a back order, right? Like there was a problem with production or something like that.
yeah, because there's not really that many companies that produce vinyl. It's a handful.
And it's overseas, right? It's usually overseas.
Some of it's overseas. There's a handful in this country,
Mhm.
and I think some in Canada.
Okay.
So it's yeah, but it's not a lot. Not enough to fill all the demand, believe it or not.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Like definitely vinyl has definitely exploded over, I don't know, the past 5 years or
I
so.
love vinyl. I
Yeah.
really do. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's something to be said about, when I always looked for, when I was growing up, you went and bought the latest vinyl, and
Sure.
you got that album and you opened it up and you looked at the liner
Big
notes,
gatefold.
and
Oof.
yeah, and that was, that was always so cool, and to
Mhm.
find out all that information, who produced it and what was used and
Yes.
things like that. To me, that was a wealth of knowledge that I
Mhm.
still live off of. It
Right.
was a great experience.
Mhm. Especially the artwork. I mean,
Oh,
as a kid, I remember my brother had a short vinyl collection, and the one that always stands out in my mind is the Number of the Beast. And holding that big old piece of cardboard with Eddie and the devil. Like as a kid, I'm like, what is this? It's awesome. So yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
mean, right. I mean, there were so many. And then, of course, when it shrunk down to CDs, I mean, CDs
yeah.
were still cool,
Right.
but there was still that vinyl, that big sleeve, and it was
Yeah,
just so much information to me. Because then, when you got CDs, everything had to be shrunk down into like
yeah,
little type, and you could
yeah.
barely read it.
Even the quality of the audio, like vinyl is the toppest quality, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
It is. It's the warmest. I mean,
Hmm.
CD is very clean, but there's no warmth to it.
Right.
It's just crystal clear digital. But that vinyl, even to hear that little scratches and pops,
Yeah,
that you know, yeah, it's a great experience.
yeah. Eventually, I plan on getting a vinyl player. Like I'm always checking out the Goodwills for like a nice little record player,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, even though
Somebody will get rid of one.
yeah, they always have like a ton of vinyl too. Even I wouldn't mind getting some like random thing, you know, just to hear it, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So what else do you have in the plans for Black 29?
Well, right now we're starting to work on rehearsals for live shows that we're, you know, working on getting those together now,
Mhm.
because obviously playing live is what we love to do.
Sure.
So, and that's not an easy thing either, because you want to do decent shows, get on decent shows. We're Yeah, I'm not into the pay to play thing. I mean,
No.
that's just so, you know what that proves? It proves that most people don't want to go to your club because you have no following yourself. Back in the 80s and stuff, clubs had followings. People would go out all the time, and people don't really go out as much anymore. Uh, so you're kind of faced and challenged with these things where, you know, not that live doesn't matter. It matters more than anything. But the fact that, we've become a lazy society,
True.
and people just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
If you think about it, nobody wants to download. It's just easier to stream now, right?
All
It
right.
takes time to download. So we don't download, we stream. It's got to be instant gratification. And
Yeah.
again, why is if you look at things like online businesses have put so many music stores out of business, because again, that lazy society where a lot of things come into play. It's bad customer service in a store.
Oh yeah.
So we just go right to online, and we just sit our asses at home and stay there, and nobody
Yeah.
wants to go out,
Yeah.
so
That's a
but
shame.
we're working on, because I just want to do some really good shows, and we're going to take this around the country, hopefully around the world.
Right on. Are you going to use the same team? Do you have plans to use the same people that you used for the record?
We have some different guys that we're using, because obviously a guy like Johnny Kelly, who's, that
He's a
guy's
quiet
so busy.
Riot and so busy.
Oh yeah, he's got so much stuff going on. He's got another project.
I am right.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
So
heard about that.
he's one of the hardest working guys in show business.
Right, right.
So, but
Much respect to him and Typo Negative.
yeah, yep. So he's great. I wish he would, but maybe I'll make him an offer one day he can't refuse.
There you go, there you go. Or I'll sit here and get familiar with the work. Like I said, I'm a drummer, so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So we briefly, before we jumped on, you had mentioned that you were out in Vegas. First, how did you do in Vegas? Did you come up big? Did you win?
I did win.
Yeah, awesome.
Let's put it. I left there with more than I went with. So
That's always good.
Yes, I love to gamble. It's
Nice.
What's
your game?
I love craps.
Oh, right on.
Fun
That's
game.
fun to watch. I've not got into that, but it's fun to watch people do that. Yeah.
It's a fun game, and of course roulette. I always bet on BLAK29.
Yeah. Oh, so is that how the name came about?
Possible. Yeah, that's part of it. So
Right
the
on.
29th is the day of my birthday. So
That's right. Next month.
Work hand in hand. Yep, exactly. So did that, but we were there for the Danzig Sings Elvis show.
Yes.
And that went really well, and that was our 4th Danzig Sings Elvis show, and that's so much fun, to listen to Glenn Danzig sing and croon Elvis songs, and it's such a great experience.
Wow. Like who knew that like years and years and years later, hearing Danzig's voice, you automatically already hear Elvis. So it's funny that it took like this long for him to actually like get to it. So that's pretty awesome. Unfortunately, I missed it. Like it's sold out here, like in a heartbeat over here in LA. But
the one back in February, yeah.
Yeah, like is there any plans of like going another round?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we're about to. There should be an announcement, I believe, tomorrow for a bunch of Danzig shows in the late summer, early fall. And then, he's got some Misfit shows happening, so it'll keep him busy, and hopefully maybe towards the end of the year we'll start it up again.
Okay. So as far as the Danzig, just pure Danzig stuff, the Elvis
Correct.
stuff, come revisit it later.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you have any plans of like, has there been any conversation of like new material or a new record or something?
Not right now. It's a very interesting time for a lot of bands that are mature bands, right? There's that thing where there is a certain amount of your audience that wants to hear new music, and then there's a certain amount that just want to hear things from the past. I think it takes the older generation back to a time where songs that they had from their youth, it takes them back to a time where they didn't have the problems of the world on their shoulders. They didn't have all the responsibilities they do as adults, and they get lost in that time by going and listening to your old catalog, which is totally fine. Look,
Right,
I mean, that's how all these bands are able to, sustain their livelihoods, is by playing all their old catalog, because again, that's what a lot of your audience grew up on. And now we're pretty fortunate because we've watched our audience kind of get younger, right? Because you have the older generation that started out with the band in the 80s. Well, they've brought their kids, and sometimes their kids now have kids, right? So you see their, and it's pretty cool. Like I said, we're one of the fortunate bands that, it's like children of all ages. Come on down.
Yeah. You see like a little kid with like a little Samhain shirt or something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. And it's funny you pronounce it Samhain, like even though it's like pronounce it Samhain. But
Samhain, yeah.
coming from your mouth, okay, for now I'm just gonna say Samhain now.
Well, I mean, look, we all know that it's Samhain, but that's
Samhain.
the Gaelic pronunciation of it, and most people wouldn't get that here. So
Mhm. Right. So we're talking with Steve Zing, the uber talented, talking about BLAK29. Tell us more about the album here. Did you do a lot of like the recording in your studio, or did you
yeah,
use other
I
resources?
did everything in my own studio. For like I said, I'm fortunate to have invested over the years, and it's one of those things where I love, I love the art of recording since I was a little kid, and never that I ever think that I would be able to have a professional studio in my own home. It's it's one of those things where I love going to a big studio, but then time is money and the money is
Sure.
yours, and you have to really go by that clock. Over here, I don't have to. The only clock that's ticking is mine, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
You're your own boss.
yeah, uh, and that's the great thing. And then of course there's the other side to it, where at some point you do have to put your foot down, because the fact that you're not paying for time means that you can you know keep it going.
Yeah.
And at some point you got to put your foot down and go, okay, you know what, we have to kind of finish this song or whatever,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
part. Otherwise, we're going to keep going and going, and it'll never get done.
Right. Rewriting and rewriting and
Right,
rewriting. It's like, no,
exactly, because you
yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So at some point, you just got to kind of live with it.
Yeah. That's
And
the artist. That's the artist's curse. I think. I think the project is never. It always feels incomplete, and you just gotta like just eventually cut ties and just let it go. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, yeah, we did everything ourselves, and I was happy with the outcome, and I think I get better and better as I engineer, and yeah, I work with different artists.
Okay.
Uh, I've recorded, a bunch of other bands here, and
Oh, cool. I was gonna ask if you have your work with others. Yeah. Cool.
oh, absolutely, in all different genres, and it's really good. It's good. Uh, I worked with a guy from Staten Island. His name is Tommy Scrow. Great guitar player, vocalist, and he's like, he's got a mixture of all different types of. It's almost like 70s and 80s classic rock type sound.
Oh wow.
But what's amazing is, it's the style is totally different from what I kind of grew up on and what I've recorded. But you get to learn, right, and really start to admire the sounds that you can get. From a lot of times it's not the equipment, right? And a lot of times it's
Oh
the
yeah.
player. When
Right.
you're
Right.
when you're a guitar player, look, if you have a $10,000 guitar and you don't know how to play it, it's going to sound like crap.
Right.
You, I have a, I have one of my best friends is a guitar player, and his guitar, he doesn't spend more than $250 on a guitar, but
There you
yet
go.
I
There you
would
go.
I would put him in the same, class as a Steve Vai,
Nice.
and all from a $250 guitar. So
Yeah.
it's all in the fingers.
Yeah. With probably pricey pickups too or something. Yeah. If that.
He's Yeah, it's really amazing. He's really taught me that, again, it's all about the player.
Nice.
It's how they attack it. So it's like drums, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can have
Sure.
the best drum kit in the world.
Yeah.
If you don't have that feel, then
Yeah.
you really have.
I've seen them and like these people like they have like these huge kits, all these nice cymbals and like a nice kit, and then I'm watching them play and like they just I mean like come on like max it
Play
out,
those
play
things.
those fucking things, bash them, that's what they're there for, but hey, I'll do fine with my little Tama Rockstar. I'm good,
I think.
yeah,
You know what? You got decent heads on them.
yeah,
They all sound good.
yeah. Evans, I'm an Evans guy. Zildjian cymbals. Yes, yes, yes. So you've seen the evolution of production as far as like recording and in the studio from like old school tape analog to now the digital world. Uh, did you like subconsciously maybe have like this learning process going on of like you're watching things go on, or like how tell me about like what your perception is now of the recording process?
I got into digital recording it was probably about 23 years ago when I got into like Pro Tools and stuff. And it was a learning curve because again, you're you're not really limited now, right? And your ability to you can fix parts without having to redo them,
Mhm.
right? So you can auto tune. Now, for one, I don't like to use auto tune. Myself and Dan, like for choruses and things like that, I don't like the cut and paste method. I like to just do it
Just
because
straight.
it gives you more character.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about certain things where you can, use certain parts to correct another part. Take a piece of this because you might have you might have, you know, bent that note out of tune, and you can take
Hmm.
another piece from here, and it's seamless.
All right.
You can punch in if you screwed up while laying down the drums. You could punch in, and it's seamless. Analog is great again because of the warmth, and but there was always you had your limitations on what you could do. You were splicing tape, and
Yeah.
you were doing all kinds of things to make it happen. And then, of course, the cost of the tape was always significant
Mhm.
for a roll of tape if you were doing 24 track, 2-inch tape. Now, I mean, you buy a hard drive and that'll last you forever.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting process, and it just keeps kind of getting better.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it goes back to what you said. It's like you could have this fancy ass equipment, but if you don't know how to handle it, it doesn't mean
If you
shit.
don't know how to use it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, very
And
cool.
and I'm sure there's tons of parts of it I'm probably underutilizing, but I really like that whole. I like to take more of an analog approach into a digital world. So that's just the way how I view it.
Right
So
on. Right on. Cool.
yeah.
Talking with Steve Zing, BLAK29, The Waiting, out now on Cleopatra Records. The recently released Blackout video is out there. Check it out. It's sexy as hell. Um, Give us some more insight on BLAK29. What can the fans expect from you? You said you might have plans on the road. What else is on the table? Any
Yeah,
music
so we're
videos or something?
yeah, we're going to be going in for a new music video. I'm just waiting to get the date. Hopefully that'll be out within the next 60 days, and
Cool.
just to keep the flow going.
Mhm.
I think I think there's something on the album that can appeal to everyone. And the reason I say that is because, Dan likes to joke that I have ADD supreme or ADHD or whatever it is. And I probably do. So, I had to make a record that I could actually listen to.
Yeah, of course.
And because I've, in the past, I've never been a fan of my own stuff. Like, not that uh, I did not like it. It's just that once I usually record something, I kind of put it to bed, and that's the end of it.
Right.
This one I could actually listen to because it kind of because it goes all over the place,
Yeah.
but still maintains a consistency of what the album is.
Right.
But it does take you on a roller coaster ride of sorts
Cool.
uh, for purposes of keeping you entertained,
Mhm.
and rather than just everything here or everything here, I wanted to have this flow,
Right.
right? So it takes your mind and it keeps you engaged.
Very
To me,
cool, man.
that was the difficult part, but the fun
Hmm.
part of doing the album.
Very, very cool. Thank you. Um, Now, did you start out as a drummer or
I did.
yeah?
Uh,
How did you get into
Started out
drumming?
with drum. What's that?
How did you get into being a drummer?
So I come from a family. I have cousins, and there were a lot of my cousins were musicians. So I would watch them and always wanted to do it. We never really had money for lessons or anything at the time when I was growing up. I had went to a um, early Misfits rehearsal when I was a kid. Wasn't playing anything at the time, and I just was a little kid sitting in the corner watching them rehearse, and I knew I knew I had to do something. And I remember kind of I look at it as manifesting. I remember looking at Glenn and thinking, I'm going to be in a band with this guy someday. And I didn't even play an instrument. So a few months later, I went to ride bikes with a friend of mine that I went to school with. And he opened his garage and there was a drum kit. And I said, well, I didn't know you played drums. And he said, well, I'm not allowed to because my mom says they're too loud. I'm like, do you want to sell them?
Oh,
So my mother bought them for me,
wow.
and I self-taught myself. I would put the Ramones records on
Awesome. Awesome.
and
Ramon,
all
wow.
kinds of stuff, and I self-taught myself. And 5 years later, we started Samhain.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so be careful what you wish for. You just may get it.
Yeah, awesome. Very good words to live by. Do you remember what kind of drum kit it was?
It was some kind of, import kit. I remember it was called a Stewart.
Stewart.
I,
Yeah.
there was no brand. It was a red sparkle kit, and I would just add on to the kit. I found the matching floor tom in
Oh,
a garbage,
whoa.
just on the curb. It was like it was meant to be.
Yes.
And man, I used that kit for years, and then I got a pearl kit, and
Mhm.
now I have too many drum kits. But you can never have too many drum kits. I
Right,
have
right,
Gretsch,
right.
I have Sonar, I have
Huh,
Mapex,
okay,
Ludwig,
okay.
and I still have my first pearl kit.
Very cool,
So
very cool.
yeah,
Did one of these kits make it onto the record? Is that what you used to record?
on the record, I used the Gretsch kit.
The Gretsch. Right on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, if I can just add my 2 cents, I teach at the School of Rock here in Los Angeles, and
Oh, it's awesome.
we have Gretsch kits like all over the studio, and they're real nice kits. Real nice kits.
Yeah, absolutely. I have two Gretsch kits. I have a Gretsch Renown kit, and then I have a Gretsch Brooklyn kit, and they both they're very great, very good kits. There's a lot. Every drum company really makes great kits.
Mhm.
DW and Sonar. I mean, Sonar is like the creme de la creme of drum kits and things like that. Uh, but again, it's all on how you play them and how you
Sure.
tune them.
Of course, of
You
course, of
know,
course. Take care of
I
those
get
things, man. You have to take care of
yeah,
those babies. Very cool.
absolutely. And by you teaching at School of Rock, that's something we didn't have when I was growing up. And I really think
Exactly,
School
right.
of Rock really turns out some amazing students. I mean, I witness it a lot here in New Jersey. A friend of mine's kids uh, does these School of Rock things, and you just can't believe like the talent, the talent that exists out there. That is the future of music,
Yes, I
you
highly
know?
agree. Yes.
And the fact that they can get them and play all different genres, and they get them, and they do these little shows here and there,
Yeah.
and they team them up with other kids, and
Yeah.
they start little bands and things like that, and
Yeah.
that's so fucking amazing. It is
Yes.
the future of our musical generation, right? It's the
Yeah.
future that's gonna really. I tell these kids, please don't stop playing. Don't get a girlfriend and stop playing. There's
Right,
plenty
right.
of time for
Yeah.
for that, but just keep playing because it's the future of music.
Totally, totally, man. And I appreciate your words. And if it's okay, I'm gonna let them know that you spoke kindly of School of Rock.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean,
And it gives, it gives kids an outlet,
sure.
right? In a world that is so screwed up, but yet they'll get together, whether it's once, twice a week, and they're learning. And again, they're getting together with other School of Rock kids, and
Yeah,
and maybe in different uh from different locations or whatever, and
yeah,
they're starting bands, and it's so cool.
yeah, it is.
And
And
I watch these kids not just play, but they're performing, and that's the amazing thing.
yeah, the little rock stars, you could see it. They have the
Oh,
talent. They have it. They're like,
absolutely,
yeah, yeah. And
absolutely.
I'm actually directing a Black Sabbath show, and their performance is this Sunday. So, Black Sabbath, come on.
I mean, I hope you record it. And that's the other great thing, Francisco, is that you're turning these kids on to, something that they probably wouldn't listen to. Maybe their parents never even listened
Right,
to,
right.
but you're turning them on to that, and it's exciting them and propelling them. Imagine what, whatever the age range is. Imagine a 12-year-old kid on Black Sabbath, what he's going to be like when he's 25,
Right,
right?
yeah,
It's going to be Black Sabbath on steroids. So
yeah. Oh, can't wait
it's,
to hear it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that good for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your words. I appreciate your time, Steve Zing, BLAK29, The Waiting, out on Cleopatra Records. Make sure you buy it in some form, digital, vinyl, what have you. And when they do eventually hit the road, KNEC will let you know when, and we'll be there to cover it. Make sure you get those tickets. We'll get the information in the description here. Steve, thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you.
have about a minute. Do you have any words for your fans, your followers?
I just, thank everybody for your support and for listening. And, it's important that you really, really don't take music for granted. And the fact that, everybody works hard to put out product, and, it doesn't take much to support an original artist. It's still cheaper than buying some overpriced coffee that you're going to piss out in 15 minutes later. And not to deny yourselves, but again, it's really, music is, the language of all. It's what motivates you, and it's what keeps you going. It's the only thing that'll take you to a place in time.